All right, welcome back to Shake Them Ropes. Rob McCarron, Jeff Hawkins here, and we are joined now by TNA's Tyrus, formerly Brodus Clay of WWE. Tyrus is working with TNA. He's on Impact Wrestling every Wednesday night on Destination America, at Brodus Clay on Twitter, at Tyrus Smash on Instagram. Tyrus, thanks you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Oh man, I'm good, man. I'm maintaining.
Maintaining. How is TNA going for you? You were on the live episode. You've been on Slammiversary. You're doing a lot with TNA now. How's all that going for you right off the bat?
Oh, it's going really well. Like I said, I did what I was brought in to do. EC3 captured the heavyweight championship of the world, so he's a happy dude right now. He was partying up pretty good last night, so I did my job, and it's been a while since a enforcer has come in and actually succeeded in getting the guy who brings them in the championship. So it's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. Everyone in the household, and that's the way it should be, right? Everyone in the household should be happy for you. Yeah, that's an interesting role too, because you're the enforcer there in TNA for Ethan Carter III. You were in a similar enforcer role in one of your earlier stints in WWE, being the enforcer for Alberto Del Rio. I mean, is that an enforcer role that you have a past in bodyguarding? Is that role suited to you because of your past? Do you enjoy working in a role like that?
One of my all-time favorites, is Arn Anderson.
Nice.
And he was probably the greatest enforcer of all time. And I spent a lot of time working on stuff with him and training him really too. Was just he would say he threw out a lot of wet shirts, spending time with me, rolling around the ring and stuff, and just working on my style of wrestling and stuff. So I enjoy that, But at the same time, he was also able to etch out a pretty solid singles career and tag career in his own right. He easily could have been, I think, a world heavyweight champion. But as far as like television titles, and tag team titles, United States titles, I mean, he has a pretty solid resume. So, I enjoy that role. It's a natural fit, but it's long term. I look more to be singles and on my own. But for right now, that's the groove. And when EC3 came to me, that's what he needed. And I got you. So now that we got his part, then we'll probably start taking care of some of my stuff, and we'll just see where this goes. But it's a good time to be in TNA right now, and it's a good time to be in wrestling.
And it sounds like for sure that you have aspirations. You let it out there a little bit that you are looking for a singles run at some point. You're happy with what you're doing now, but you're looking for a singles run. If you were the promoter, if you were, booking and designing what was going to happen in the future, a singles role sounds like what you would want to put yourself in. Is that right?
Yeah. So I got a good taste of that, with the Funkasaurus, the WWE, until ended up, tagging with Tenzai. But standing on my own 2 feet is always something that appeals to me. And I think I really don't, sometimes guys that, get a part of groups or whatever is because they lack one thing or another. As far as the mic stuff goes, I've always done very well in that aspect of things. As far as work goes, when I'm allowed to do my thing, I'm able to do my thing. So I really don't need anybody. But then again, that's what makes the dynamic of me and EC3 work, is that he just didn't go out and get a body. He got out somebody that was going to change the game for him. So, it's not every day you beat Kurt Angle. So,
right. Yeah.
Especially for, world championship. So.
Absolutely. People, you don't need anybody, but it seems like people need you. You've been in this enforcer role a lot. A lot of people don't realize too that at WrestleMania 27, you were involved with Alberto Del Rio in what was actually Edge's last match in WWE. Yeah. Is that something you look back on and are happy with, or is that one of those milestones that you kind of put in your back pocket?
It's a bittersweet thing. Mm-hmm. Unless it's under the right circumstances, where a wrestler or any athlete is going out under their own accord, like, hey, this is my last match, I'm retiring, I'm moving on. Uh-huh. With Edge's situation, it was an injury that caused the retirement. So it's kind of a bittersweet thing. Yeah. it's WrestleMania. It was my first WrestleMania. We were unsuccessful win the championship, but I had some pretty big moments and being out there with Christian and him. And I wish things would have been different in terms of like Edge's retirement due to his injury and stuff. But at the same time, it was an honor to be a part of that. But I wish things would have been different.
At Brodus Clay on Twitter, Tyrus Smash on Instagram. What would you say is the one thing that when people recognize you out in the real world, they say to you the most or ask you about the most?
Lately they say I look a lot like Brodus Clay, but I'm bigger.
Bigger, and you got the facial hair going.
Yeah.
I mean, you look like someone you don't want to cross paths with.
So I usually play along. I said, yeah, I met that cat. And, I told him not to show his face around, and no one's seen him. And they're like, yeah, he was nice. He's a lot nicer than and he was smaller, and he was more of a dancer and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, for real. But you guys could be brothers. I'm like, oh well, maybe who knows. So I had a lot of fun with that. But that actually happened last night. So that, and they just don't. They honestly, a lot of times they don't realize in real life how big I actually am. That's usually the biggest thing.
Yeah, you're 6'7", right?
Yeah, 6'7.5". I'm a hiccup away from 6'8".
I had a question about the bodyguard role that you played, because now you played two of them, and they're both been different in their own style. And I've always loved kind of the interplay of the giant bodyguard with EC3 is not a small guy by any means, but a smaller guy. Are you more comfortable in the kind of the non-speaking, just kind of enforcer, Mr. Hughes style of bodyguard, or do you like this more interplay kind of thing that you're having with EC3 and TNA, which seems like even a new side of your own bodyguard character?
Yeah. Well, being quiet is not easy for me.
Okay.
And especially in the locker room stuff, like in both locker rooms, I was, I'm the guy, I tease everybody, and I'm kind of a loudmouth and stuff like that. So, but looking at the thing where EC3 is kind of a whiner, he complains a lot, so both of us complaining doesn't really work. But like at Slammiversary, I jumped on there, I picked my spots, and when you're developing a new persona, the thing about the Funkasaurus is every time he talked, everybody liked it. So, and I was cool. So if I come back as Tyrus and I'm talking and saying, because I can't not be witty and say what's on my mind or try to say clever things and stuff like that, then it's not really Tyrus. It's just and I had to be aggressive and mean, but my work and facial expressions build a character. It's a risk, people are like, oh, he can't talk anymore or something like that. But in terms of building a new persona and a new identity, Tyrus didn't need to talk in the beginning.
Right.
And when he does talk, it's important. Whereas the Funkasaurus character, he run his mouth about everything, and try to be witty and clever and cool. And I think as a heel, we have too many cool heels these days, which is impossible for a babyface. Because everybody likes Darth Vader, but does anybody like the Emperor? Because he didn't say much, he didn't look the part, he was ugly, and he wasn't cheap. Yeah, Georgie doesn't like. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mama. You got it. And just getting back to that character, when I think about the bad guys that I watched growing up and stuff, they didn't say a word. Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, they really didn't talk that much. Bobby Heenan did all the talking for him. And in this situation, EC3 does most. He gets on the mic and he runs on forever. So,
yeah.
And that's fine, because what I'm trying to do is, the thing about the Funkasaurus is the type of matches that was designed to have. I would have maybe 3 to 6 minutes, 6 if I was lucky, TV time to get some, and that's not a whole lot of time to get things accomplished. Right. Or to, got away from the suplexes and just being aggressive and stuff like that. So, Tyrus, I'd rather spend that time getting the work, and now you're starting to hear the compliments and the praises, and stuff like that as far as the work and stuff goes. So when it comes time to get on the mic and do my thing, I'm not really concerned with that. Just I'm excited now when here's a perfect example. Like listen today, and someone goes, "Hey, Tyrus, is that you?" Where 3-4 months ago it would have been Brodus Clay.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's one thing and I'm not, don't get me wrong, I love Brodus Clay character. I love the Funkasaurus. It was great, and it was different. It was something to give back to. We had the Junkyard Dog when I was a kid, and we had the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. So, there wasn't really a character like that was cool and the kids liked. And mom and dad would be like, hey, yeah, you can watch wrestling tonight because Funkasaurus is on. Yeah, go ahead, check it out. And that was cool. Now I'm trying to go a different route. So to get away from that character, I've had to do some things differently. And now it's becoming more of, hey, can we book Tyrus? Can we book Tyrus? Or before it was like, we're going to book the Funkasaurus. So it's like basically I have split personality now, whereas before it was just Brodus Clay just being mean. Now it's, hey, that's Tyrus, So I'm proud of that. And it's still a process. I'd still say it's, it's like at one time it was 90-10, and then now it's 7, and then now it's like 60-40, which is saying a lot for as impactful as the Funkasaurus character was.
And reinvention
Good
is
or
so
bad.
Yeah, reinvention is so important, both even in the careers of you and EC3 here. But it was interesting to me that you went directly to pop culture when talking about bad guys in terms of Darth Vader and everybody liking him. Are you the kind of guy that for these types of villainous characters you go to different pop cultural references, like certain comic books, TVs, movies that you like to look for inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a movie geek and stuff like that, and read lots of comic books and stuff. And when I think about characters and stuff like the Abomination or even like the Hulk early stuff, Venom didn't really say much. And when you did, it was forceful and being aggressive. I think a bad guy is a bad guy. Silence is uncomfortable.
Okay.
But silence when they know you can say something is worse because you're plotting and you're thinking. You just don't be a big dumb guy. Right. Like we've seen a million of that, and Mr. Hughes, he could talk.
Yeah.
We just never knew it, And I think that role, that bodyguard role is, why wouldn't, come on, and I've even made references to where when EC does his stuff, I don't even like it because it's not when he had the quartet and they were singing and dancing and stuff, and I was just staring at him like, this is terrible, but I'm here to do a job, what I'm saying? So, and we've all had jobs, we necessarily didn't like everything about it.
Yeah, so, it's kind of the nuance of being more of a lieutenant than a bodyguard, which is interesting. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Arn Anderson had his own. I think of that kind of bodyguard. The last time I think of bodyguard that was probably Diesel and Shawn Michaels. There was success in terms of like for both guys or whatever. It's just the bodyguard thing doesn't last anymore because there's no. The story, they fizzle out too quick, or they turn too quick, or it just doesn't. They don't build stories anymore. The nice thing about TNA is that they're not afraid to build a story. EC winning this title, it took a long build, and basically brought a guy in and built it from scratch, and he had success, in the WWE. It's not like he was some guy off the street, and I had some battles with him back in the day over there. So working with him, I knew what he already brought to the table. So. For me, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's been, you came in November, December time, if I'm not mistaken, to TNA, and it's been ever since then that they kind of been building to this. And you're right, TNA is not afraid to build up that story for the long haul. And I think, do you think that's part of the issue where we're getting so many cool heels because they're more interested in short term and selling T-shirts and being people that want to be cool instead of actually, building up a long-term storyline that might, either draw money or draw more interest?
Stone Cold changed the game.
Yeah.
He was a cool heel. I mean, I'd say he's a babyface. He was a babyface that cheated and threw punches, but he was basically a bad guy. All the things that he said, if, the Iron Sheik came out and said, they'd boo him to the end of the time. But because he was rock and roll cool, it changed the role. Babyfaces all of a sudden look goofy and like, if it was Stone Cold versus Ricky Steamboat in the Attitude Era, Ricky Steamboat wouldn't have had a chance, and he's probably the greatest babyface of all time. But who would they have cheered for? Right. They would have cheered for Stone Cold.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they would have eaten Ricky. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's insane to think about, But he just was that, that rock and roll kind of heel. That everybody wanted to be, and every guy thought he was in the mirror. Like, I'm cool, I'm a badass. You weren't, but they thought they were. So, they loved it. And he won. So, going back to a character that's non-complimentary and doesn't like it's Slammiversary, perfect example. There was a little girl holding a sign up, for Bobby Lashley, Gunner, and not Gunner, sorry, Anderson, and politely taking the sign from her and tearing it up and giving it back to her and watching her cry. We just don't see that anymore,
Right.
And that took all the coolness out of it. And she cried, and I just looked at the crowd and smiled. Especially coming from me, they were going, what? And then I'm just like, I told you I hate the kids. And then
That's what I'm paid to do.
They throw stuff at me all night. That's fine. You bought the merch, I didn't. So
Right.
I enjoy that.
You speak very eloquently and wisely about the business. You seem to have these long-term sights on it. I think there's a perception out there about Tyrus that you've been wrestling for a short time, but really you've been in it for about a decade, maybe even longer, if I'm mistaken.
2006. So it'll be 10 years, next year. And I took a hiatus, but to go back with Bodyguard with Snoop. But I've been a student of the game my entire life. I was a fan first.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Was there any thought when you left WWE the second time that you would go back to doing that you would go back to being a bodyguard or find something else in entertainment to do? Or
the entertainment thing, I am working on other projects and stuff like that. But for me, I wanted to keep wrestling. I wanted to do things. I was like, I did it their way, and I was given stuff and I made it work or whatever. And then it was my time to try to expand. We just didn't really work out. So I was like, I had my mind made up that I was going to TNA already. So it was just when they called, and they called fairly quickly. It was just that's where I wanted to be. So they were going to a new network, so it was a new start, new company, a chance. And it's you don't know TV shows today. You don't know if things are going to work or not, but as a chance to, it's almost like a new company, and I think in a short amount of time, when you say TNA, now you'd be like EC3 and, oh yeah, Tyrus, what I'm saying, where before maybe you wouldn't, but definitely we've kind of got that kind of swag going on right now. And, it's to the point where we're even getting attention from up the street, see to try to diss me, talking about the XFL and, the Funkasaurus or whatever. But, thanks for thinking about me. Appreciate it.
That's really all there is to it.
Things right.
Yeah, that's what there is to it. If you're saying my name, if you're remembering me, then I did something right on TV. Like if you remember who I was and can remember a character that I did, you were doing something right. You weren't a nameless guy on TV. You made something of everything.
Yep. So a lot.
I want to ask you a little bit about when you're not wrestling on TNA, when you're not wrestling in Impact Wrestling, you're doing other shows here and there. You're still traveling quite a bit. Is the traveling schedule less or more hectic than it was in WWE? Just because you don't know the next town is not just 2 hours away. You may be flying from the East Coast to the West Coast the next day. What's the traveling like nowadays?
Well, I kind of pick and choose my schedule, which is completely different. The WWE, you get your email on Wednesday. I'm going here. I'm going here. Where now I'll be like, I want to go here. I don't think I've ever been here. So you kind of pick and choose. If you want to take a week off, you take a week off. If you don't, you don't. So it's more flexible. And still, you travel. I mean, when you're going, you're going, and when you're running, you're running. And I do more overseas stuff, which before with the WWE, you go overseas like maybe 4 times a year. Now I'll go overseas, 6 or 7 times a year. So which is cool because I'm not going to all my bucket list places. I just with the guitar and I'm getting ready to go to Israel. And, so I'm seeing all kinds of places and being your own boss is really cool.
You're going to be in TNA Wrestling. You're doing a couple of independent dates. In fact, one of the dates that there's a company here where I am. I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And there's a company here that's advertising you on July 25th, so not too far away. You're going to be in my neck of the woods here coming up. It looks like on the card against a fella named Congo Kong. Are you familiar with Congo Kong or familiar with some of the
I've
top
seen some
names?
of his stuff. I pay attention to guys and stuff like that, and he has a lot of face paint, and he's a big guy. He's actually pretty athletic, so I'll be interested to see just how athletic he is when we get in the ring with him. But I've seen some of his stuff and text her and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, my daughter doesn't seem to think he's going to be much of a threat.
Dad is going to win.
Yeah. So.
Earlier this year, you were Jeff Jarrett and his Global Force Wrestling. You were set to do a couple of shows with him, wrestling Ring of Honor's Moose, and then that kind of went away. You wrote on Twitter that you weren't doing those events due to contractual obligations. Can you tell us anything about kind of what happened with that?
Well, looks to me like I was preemptively messing up a swerve, so without knowing it. So I was confused why I was asked not to do the shows, but and it looked like it was a contract issue. Like, you know, because pretty much TNA you can work wherever you want, with the exception of companies that run TV.
Mm-hmm.
So because obviously, you know, you wouldn't want to run against yourself. So
right.
So that looked like what the situation was going to be. So when that was explained to me, then of course I did, you know, the right thing, and I, you know, talked to Jeff and let him know, and no one really smartened me up. And then when he came walking on to TNA, and I was like, what the hell? And immediately one of the reps from TNA put his hand on my shoulder and goes, you can work his shows now. And I was like, it's so important for me just to get away from you right now. So I was kind of hot.
They kept it from you.
I swear. Yeah.
They couldn't tell. Yeah, they couldn't tell you what was going on.
Who knows if that, you know, if it, like I said, I don't know anything about negotiations and things like that. All I can control what I can control, and it could have been a midnight deal. You know, these things, you know, happen. But you know, the good thing was that you know, Dixie Carter had the vision to, you know, make a deal to where the, you know, the talent gets more work. And when bosses are willing to do that and outsource for you, get you more bookings and stuff like that, you know, that's a good thing. And that's a feather in the cap to her. And I think sometimes she gets a bad rap. You know, I think she gets the same kind of like elitist view as, like, you know, the McMahons and stuff get. And it's actually she's very different in terms of like very polite and family oriented, and you know, the McMahons are like business, you know, and they have a lot more guys that they have to deal with, and you know, WWE is a big giant machine, you know, so there's less time for more personal stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, she was very personal and stuff. So it was very cool for her to make that deal with Jeff Jarrett for, you know, to get the boys and stuff more work, because not everybody gets, you know, I'm lucky to where, I mean, I'm booked just off GP, you know, I don't really need another place to get booked or whatever.
So are there plans to wrestle on any of the Grand Slam tours, any of the GFW shows, or is that, well, I mean, we're just kind of waiting to see?
Championship, so, you know, I'll take a title shot.
There you go. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you know, I mean, he's king of the mountain, but he didn't beat me, so.
You mentioned Arn Anderson as a kind of an inspiration early. When you were first starting in pro wrestling, were there any mentors that you had? Were there anyone that you know, kind of took you in when you were starting with WWE and developmental, and you maybe asked questions of, you maybe asked them about their experiences in wrestling? Did you have anyone kind of like that could show you the ropes?
There was a lot of good trainers and stuff like that. There's a long list of guys. I was very lucky. There was a lot of people. Early on, you know, it was Bill DeMont, and it was Dr. Tom, and Jody Hamilton, William Regal, Dave Taylor, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, who was tremendous influence. But when he first met me, he was like, "I only talk to stars, baby." I was like, "Well." They told me to come over here and introduce myself. I didn't ask to meet you. You know, I was like, I never wanted to meet him in the first place. You know, I was kind of mad like that. You know, then our relationship just kind of grew from there. And you're like, who's this guy walking around here thinks he's got more charisma than me? You know, and it just kind of grew. And the next thing you know, it was, you know, I spend most of my time in his office making him tell me stories. So, so I've been lucky, you know, a lot of great influence. Even if guys didn't want to necessarily, like I think Dean Malenko didn't have much use for me at first, but you stick around Bug Guy enough, you know, you'll come around. You know, and of course Arn Anderson and so many trained Road Dogg. I mean, I was lucky in terms of like I had a lot of good guys, you know, in my corner and stuff like that. And boys themselves, like wrestling, you know, Tyson, all through developmental and stuff like that. I mean, how can you not get better? So, I was just lucky in terms of like having a good support system, but not being afraid to listen and learn, and take criticism and be coached. And, sometimes I got really bad, Double A would tear me apart. If he didn't like the match, he didn't think I did, enough of my potential. He would tell me that's terrible. Are you happy with that?
I have a question. The story about how you transitioned from bodyguard to wrestling is fairly well known, but you're from out where I am right now, and we are roughly the same age. You're a Southern California guy originally, I believe, and oddly enough, we share. How long were you in the? This may come out of left field, so if you don't remember, that's fine. How long did you do the Pacific Football League for? Out here.
I would show up between trials to stay in shape. So
okay.
So maybe I know one season for sure. I think I showed up for the opening season for one, and then I got a call for a tryout, and I was out. So
I was not nearly in good enough shape to get through the tryout. But when did you decide to make the transition then from football to was it straight to bodyguarding, or did you look into wrestling training first?
No, I was teaching.
Okay.
I was playing arena football. I finished up playing arena football, and then was a little beat up, and started substitute teaching and started working in. I was being a recreation therapist at 5 Acres, which is
okay.
And I was doing that, and then bodyguarding. I was working nightclubs at night for extra keys. So everyone knows if you're a teacher, you don't make any money. So, so I was supplemental income bouncing at night, and then go from there. And then next thing you know, I went to Saddle Ranch, and then
nice.
met a guy, and then started bodyguarding for Snoop, and then bodyguarding for some other rich guys. And the owner of Saddle Ranch, I worked for him quite a while.
Okay.
I never actually looked into wrestling other than when I did in college, and that didn't work out. But then Tommy Dreamer discovered me in the bar fight. So and that was pretty much how it went from there. And he just was shocked that I knew more about wrestling than he did. So
I just love that we had that little share experience of passing ships in the Pacific Football League. But
yeah, California Dolphins. Yep.
Yep.
What are those kids thinking? Like, I don't know. What was the age group that you were teaching, and what were they thinking when Big Tyrus walks in to teach their class?
Well, Tyrus at the time was George and or Mr. Murdoch, and he was a ball player, so I was cool.
Nice.
And most of the kids I work with were delayed or had some serious anger issues. So they, size really didn't matter. And it's funny because I get along with kids better than I do adults.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Even now, like as mean as Tyrus can be, the kids don't really seem to care. Even when I make one cry, everyone else was like, by the end of the show, they still want a picture. So I don't get it. But, I've always I've always kind of led with humor and wit, and that seems to win kids over, and know what they want to talk about. When you're trying to get a kid to understand something, and you're like, well, what would Dragon Ball Z do, or what would, when they understand, when you come at them in a certain level in terms of getting to learn and be cognitive, when you reach them on their level, then you got them. So I would know that, not that I didn't like watching cartoons anyways, but you got to know what's going on.
Yeah,
and when you can reach them on their level and then bring them to yours, then you got them. And that was always my strategy. So I got along with the kids.
Yeah, kids can look through an act real quick, and it seems like that you have kind of a no pretense type of demeanor.
Yeah. So, and like I said, I like the most part of my life, I'm usually cracking jokes and pretty laid back. But I can turn it off. And when I stop talking, it's usually a problem. But
okay.
I've never been accused of being quiet. Always got something to say. So, but yeah, I liked teaching was a lot of fun. I missed it. I enjoyed, I was coaching football with Snoop and stuff, and kind of my role expanded from just a bodyguard to like I was a coach, and I did a lot of stuff with just the kids. It's, a lot of those kids are growing up now. Most of them are going to college and stuff, so you feel good about that, So it's been a good experience, but I've always kind of been a teacher first when it comes to life outside of wrestling.
Before we let you go, we have some questions that came in through our email, rob@voicesofwrestling.com. We got one person asking, 5 years from now, do you still see yourself in wrestling? Do you see yourself more diversified?
I'd like to be. Well, I got some movie stuff coming up, but honestly, I'd like to do a little play-by-play and maybe some agent. But as far as being in the ring, no. Yeah, Daddy won't be wrestling then. Maybe 3 more years, maybe, and then it'll probably be a wrap. But if I'm still, have the passion and the fire to want to be, I definitely would want to be in the teaching and the training mode, or being an agent would be a lot of fun, or being an old school booker or something like that. Or do my best Gorilla Monsoon impersonation. So, so that would be kind of the goal or whatever. But and nothing against the guys that stay in it, but I really think it's a disservice to the young guys when guys stay too long. It's time to pass the torch and move on to other things in life. And it just hurts your brand. You want to be remembered, as who you are. Then, and I'm not saying they can't come to legend things, do autograph signings and stuff like that. But when you see those guys in the ring and stuff like that, sometimes you kill the memory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, sure.
And we've all been there. We've all seen that match where you're like, please stop.
Yeah. There's
please stop. Oh God.
Plenty of examples, I am sure. Ever since your bodyguarding and pro wrestling days, have you ever feared another person?
Usually when I was dating at the time. Don't do. I can take. We want to fight, let's fight. I've been enough fights in my life to last in a lifetime. But arguing with emotions and stuff, because I'm a facts guy. So women are mean and don't do too well with them in arguments and stuff. And I have that last word issue. Where I get the last word in, and I gotta, then I want to go to sleep, but I can't. I'm afraid what's going to happen to me. So that kind of fear.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last but not least, the most important question, and I'm sorry we have to end on this super serious note, but have you ever seen a ghost?
You know what? I don't know.
I feel like that's something you would remember if you had.
I think I know.
I just don't know. I mean, I know I've had some weird dreams and stuff. I've seen Sheamus.
There you go. Hopefully not too much.
So, Sheamus with his shirt off, pretty ghostly. Yeah, he's so white. We wrestled in Mexico, and he had to wear a white body armor suit because of the sun. He would have caught on fire. The ring, the way it was during the day in a baseball stadium, and the ring was cut in half, and Sheamus would only wrestle in the shade. So trying to move him into the sun is one of the greatest things I think I've ever seen in my life. So, so as far as ghosts, yeah, Sheamus. But
there we go. So we'll count that as yes. That's a victory.
I think I had a dream once that I got abducted by an alien, but I didn't sit in ship. So I don't know if that counts. But yeah, no ghosts as of yet.
I'll
if I
count
did
it.
see it, I wouldn't be back. So
that's true. I mean, I'll count that. I'm not going to tell Tyrus that I won't count it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
The alien's scarier anyway. So.
Yeah, but as far as like a ghost, yeah. I mean, I did Super Hero. I didn't see any ghosts in that either. But so yeah, no ghosts as of yet.
Anything that you want to say to the listeners out there, the fans that you've had through your WWE days, now in TNA as Tyrus, anything that you want to get out there, anything else that you want to
say? I just want to say thank you. The support I get is crazy. And people come up to me and talk to me. It doesn't bother me. I try to always accommodate everybody. And if you have questions and stuff like that, then just hit me up on Twitter. And I try to answer as much as I can. Instagram and stuff like that. And in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start doing a series called 21 Questions with Tyrus. And we're going to videotape and have some fun with it. Because sometimes the fans crack me up with some of their questions, but put them on camera and have them ask the questions and stuff like that, because it amuses me, like with some of the stuff they come up with.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Thank you very much, and we wish you the best success in your future with wrestling, with movies, with everything else that you're doing.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you guys. Anytime.